you so much for taking time with us this evening. We are super excited to have Aliphine Tuliamuk with us, already a 10-time U.S. national champion. Aliphine has brought it to another level by winning the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials earlier this year in Atlanta. It was a wonderful day. It was a wild day. I was there to experience the exuberance of it all, and Aliphine earning her spot on the U.S. Olympic team for Tokyo 2020. It's a great honor and joy to have her with us. I'm John Brust with SFRRC, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Lizzy Gregory Rountree, former member of SFRRC, and we still train together. She is now a member of the all-woman elite development racing team of the Impalas. Lizzy also competed in the Olympic trials with Aliphine in February. So high level, so many good things are out there despite the tough time. I see so many people outside running, at least here in San Francisco. It's a wonderful sight. Let's keep encouraging that, particularly when things get better. I look forward to seeing all of you and, of course, running with you again. I don't know when that will be, but let's have hope. Let's stay positive. Let's stay healthy in every way possible as well. On a more human level, these times are very tough for many. So let's be kind. Let's love well. Let's be good and generous with each other in every way that we can. Everybody needs it right now. All right, to each one of you, Hoka Ona One is giving away a free pair of shoes at the end of to one of today's attendees. So simply make a comment. Let's see. Oh, good. I see comments in there. Great. Make a comment on the right-hand side. At the end, Hoka will choose a winner, and we'll basically give the shoes away. You'll know today. Also, see below in the comments. If you're on Strava, follow Aliphine. No one knows she's on there. She's on there. So her link is below. We'll also have her Twitter feed below. She's on Twitter quite often. And for those who know about her crochet beanies, we'll talk about that again today. But the link is down below. And of course, a hello to our San Francisco Road Runners Club, and also a warm welcome to all of our guests. Our guests, of course, and friends of the Impala racing team, Lizzy's group, and the DSE runners also here in San Francisco. Also a hello to our Boston to Big Sur team that, well, fingers crossed that those races could take place. I'm more hopeful for Big Sur, which is going to be, I think, November 14th or 15th or something like that. But that team is coached by Alphine's coach, Ben Rosario, who's helping coach those guys, the Boston to Big Sur. Lastly, a hello to our friends at the Badgerland Striders in Milwaukee, my brothers running club, and of course everybody else. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, before we begin, our most sincere gratitude to everybody on the front line helping us navigate through the coronavirus pandemic. You are amazing, and we are grateful. So let's get right into it. As I mentioned, Aliphine, we are thrilled and we're honored to have you with us. Thank you so much. It is an absolute joy. And so before we get into the big race, your Olympic, so first of all, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John. I mean, it's an honor for me to be able to talk to you all tonight or this evening, and so I'm grateful for that. Hopefully, one or two of you will learn something from me and be inspired, especially at such a hard times.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get in the big win at the Olympic trials in late February, how are you doing these days?
Oh gosh, how am I doing these days? I'm okay. I think I am just like everyone else, paralyzed by the situation that we are in. I think we've all kind of learned to live with it. It was very strange, and I was very disappointed. In March when the Olympics was postponed, but I think over time I have kind of realized, I'm privileged, I'm lucky that I'm healthy, my family is healthy, and I can still do running, I can still run outside, so I'm good, I can't complain, honestly, I'm good.
Okay. How is the interview scene going? I mean, we can't meet in person, so to speak, but how's the webcast scene going and things?
Yeah, so that has been really good. I did a lot of interviews right after the Olympic trials, but as time has gone by, like it's going down a little bit more. So I've had, more time to sleep in and, or go for late runs, which is what I, normally do. But yeah, it's been, great. Like I think in the beginning I had like interviews, like maybe 2 or 3 in a day, and they will come out and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know which one to listen to or which one to read. But now I think I'm going back to like watching and reading some of them.
All right, wonderful. Well, for those who don't know about your crochet beanies, do you have one you can show us nearby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one here. Ooh, I have this sparkling black, and that right here is my logo, Aliphine Resiliency Beanies. And so these are just some of the inventory that I'm trying to fill up for those that were already ordered. And I don't know if you wanted me to say anything about it or not, but I'll just go ahead and say it. So last summer, I was diagnosed with a stress fracture, and I just didn't know what to do with my life because I couldn't run for 8 weeks. And I kind of taught myself how to crochet beanies from a YouTube a video. And I guess I will say I'm a badass crocheter right now. And it's been fun, like that's especially right now, like even though I'm running, like sometimes you will get anxious, thinking about the fact that your race is not going to happen. And I was supposed to do some races this May and June and the rest of the summer, but they're not going to happen. And so my crocheting is still kind of something that I will go do after my runs, and it takes my mind away from the stress that is going on around the world. So I'm very lucky that way.
Perfect. And then how is your running? I mean, did you after the Olympic trials, did you take a week, 2 weeks off? And how are you doing now?
I took 14 days off after the trials. Like I actually didn't cool down after the trials. Of course, I couldn't cool down because I had a lot of obligations. And so I didn't run for 14 days after that. And on the 15th day, I went out and ran, and that was hard. I mean, it was interesting to think that 2 weeks before that, I had ran like a 5:38 average pace for 26.2 miles. But on the day that I came back, my first run back was like, I started probably running like 10-minute pace, and I couldn't have a conversation. I couldn't hold a conversation. And then, like I kind of got better. I mean, you don't lose your fitness right away. But since then, though, I'm not running much. Like I'm running about 60 to 80 miles a week, which for me at this point in my career is not much. I'm not doing a lot of, I'm not actually doing any intense workouts. And so yesterday I had a 8-mile steady state at 5:45 pace, and I went on one of my favorite places that I used to do my workouts in before. And back then I would run, like 5:30s or 5:20s are totally easy. But yesterday it was not easy. I ended up averaging 5:46, and it was just hard. Like I finished, I was like, phew, that was hard. So I think I can officially say that I am not as fit as I was about 3 months ago. Okay. But yeah, I'm a little out of shape, but I also am convincing myself that this is the perfect time to be a little out of shape because there's not any race. I mean, I don't have any races in the horizon. And so I'm building my aerobic, like fitness, and I'm not too worried about like speed. And I know that when the time comes and it's time to get ready, I will be ready in like a month. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm just enjoying, running, and and I actually haven't run today. That's a confession.
Oh no! I thought you were gonna run beforehand.
I was, yes, and then it was hot, and I decided no. So I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna run 6 miles after this, because I mean the sun doesn't set until like almost a little bit close to 8 p.m. So by the time it gets dark, it's not going to be until later. So yeah, that's what I'm doing these days. Like I'm very flexible with my running. I will go run if I feel like I need to go run, and if I feel tired, I will wait for as long as possible. And I'm also not afraid to take a day off. It's the perfect time to be very flexible, even for a pro athlete.
We're trying to do the same. So hey, I saw your tweet yesterday. A couple of days ago, actually. You said time to get into the garden. So tell us about your planting. What do you plant? Is it flowers, food? What is it?
Oh, we planted corn. We planted blue corn. We planted a couple of weeks ago, we planted some kales and some broccoli. We're planting all sorts of food, all sorts of vegetables. And we also have, I think we will have some bell pepper. We will have some tomatoes. No, we're planting real food. Wonderful. We are trying to be efficient and self-sufficient, so that if something like that ever happens again, we have food. But not just kidding. But we do plant real food, though. I think so. Our corn, we let it like we let our corn to dry up outside so that when you boil it, it takes a long time, like a few hours to like boil it. And then like we make soup, like different sorts of soup with it. And it's really good. The texture is just perfect. It's
Oh
like
my
what we
gosh.
used to do when I was growing up.
Well, I don't think we're going to get to taste it, but it sounds amazing.
It is amazing. And I'm also a really good cook. I just put that out there.
All right, all right. All right, so of course, let's jump into the race that professional women and men across the United States think about, and surely for a year and a half, but almost and focus and make life decisions based upon this race. But really, almost for every for 4 years, some people think about these things. So the Olympic trials. So Lizzy is with us right here. Lizzy qualified for the trials. I believe it was in 2018 at up in Sacramento at the California International Marathon. She qualified for the trials with 11, or no, I take it back, 9 of her teammates from the Impalas. So Lizzy crushed the trials. She finished, I believe it was 85th. Is that correct, Lizzy?
Yep.
85th, and just behind one of her teammates. I get to train with them, and it's an honor and it's a joy. So we couldn't think of a better person to kind of lead into questions with you. So Lizzy, I turn it over to you and Aliphine.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Thank you for setting this up, and thank you again so much, Aliphine, for chatting with us. You are an inspiration and a light to so many people in the running community, especially the women's running community. You have a lot of big fans in San Francisco, and especially on the Impala racing team. So I did get to be there with you that weekend, though I did not want to bother you because there were so many incredible elite athletes, and I was like, I'm just going to give them their space. Don't want to overwhelm them. They're like in serious focus time, and I knew I was like nowhere in the running, so I was just like, woo, just having fun. But I'm sure you were still having fun too. But it was intense, and it was so cool. I wish that I could have been outside of my body watching you finish in real life, but I was out there suffering.
Me too. I wish I was out watching myself.
Yeah. And I know that you've done a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews about the race, but now that you've had, I think about 10 weeks since the race has gone by, and now that you've had some time to reflect on that day, what would you say were some of your biggest takeaways or lessons that you learned from that particular race as an athlete?
Yeah, gosh, I think I can't believe it's been 10 weeks already. I mean, it feels like a long time ago on one end, but it also feels like the other day. I remember when I first qualified, or like when the new standards for the Olympics came out last year, like it was spring of last year, and I was getting ready for my spring marathon to qualify for the Olympic trials, and it just feels like the other day. And actually, I just want to put this fun fact out there that after those new standards came out, I was the first U.S. athlete to get those standards, because when I ran in Rotterdam, I ran 2:26, and I was the first athlete in the U.S. to get that new standard. And I guess I should have known that that was going to be also my position at the trials, but I had no way of knowing. But yeah, my biggest takeaways, honestly, I think I keep going back to belief, believing in yourself, believing in the training that you've done, believing in the people that surround you, that care about you, the people that know you most. Many a times there's so many distractions out there, there's your competitors, and, with the age of social media, people are sharing things, people are sharing workouts. And I'm also part of a group, where we believe that we will share the entire journey. And so we will share our workouts, what we did. You could find us on Final Search, or, and you could see how we did. And so, but with that comes distractions. You see so-and-so did this workout. Like I remember Molly Seidel, who ended up second place. I saw her about 5 weeks before the trials. I saw her in Houston, and we sat right next to each other in the bus to a start line for the Houston half marathon. And she was just telling me, she was like, I don't know if I could do a marathon, like I see the workouts that you guys are doing and you're killing it. And I'm like, I don't think I can do that. If that's what you need to accomplish to like succeed in a marathon, I don't think I could do it. And I remember telling her that you do you, like trust what you're doing, trust that what your coach is giving you is enough to get you the results that you need. And sure enough, she was second place at the trials. And so I think belief is very important. I definitely have gone back to that. Like for me, like the media, had a lot of focus on a lot of the athletes, and it's understandable because we had a lot of really good athletes this year. I think for the first time in the U.S. history of, Olympic marathon trials. And so I didn't have that much focus, which was good because I didn't have the pressure. But then like going out there, there was also a negative effect that came with that because it's like if a lot of people don't think you can do it, are you sure you can accomplish it? And then you see what other people, your competitors are doing in workouts and you're like, ooh, I don't know. And then when I ran my race in Houston in January, I was like, the seventh American? And all those women in front of me were going to be at the trials. I was like, oh, if I can handle this 5 weeks out, am I going to be able to handle this, during the trials? But I kept going back to, the workouts that I had done, the big sessions that I had done, and I had done really well. And I told myself, I said, what matters is how I produce the results on the trials day. And I'm really glad that happened because that definitely kind of reinforced the idea, the belief is very important in any situation or in anything that you do.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thank you. That is one of my favorite little race mantras that I like to tell myself is trust in your training and just believe that you've put in the hard work. I wrote down in my notebook like every single workout I did that I was proud of, and it took like a really long time, but that was what was playing through my head. So one of my follow-up questions is, what is like a phrase or something that you use to get yourself through in like the really, really tough miles in a marathon? Do you have anything like that?
Actually, I don't have a mantra. In the past, when I have tried to have a mantra, it gives me anxiety, it stresses me, and I feel like it makes me slow down. And usually I feel like when you need a mantra, it's when you're going through a hard time. And even in practice, whenever I've had those hard times and I try to give myself a mantra, it's like it hasn't worked. And so for me, I think I try to just focus on my surrounding. I'm very judgmental when I'm running, like say in the beginning of the race, especially in the middle of the race when I'm still feeling good. I'm looking at, my competitors, what are they wearing? Oh, their new uniform looks strange and stuff like that. Like, it's so funny. Like I was looking at Emily Sisson's uniform, and I'm like, that's a different kind of blue. Okay, because I used to run for New Balance, and so when we were in the race at the trials, I was like, yeah, that's a different blue for New Balance. I hadn't seen that before. Like I just try to stay in the present by doing things like that, like being judgmental, looking at what's around me. But during the later, stages of the race, I think I kind of black out or blank, and like I'm just waiting for the finish line to get to the finish line. But more importantly, like if I'm leading, I'm trying to concentrate on the fact that somebody is coming behind me, and I'm trying to go as fast as possible, as fast as I can. And so I don't really have a mantra, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I think I actually wrote down like a mantra for every mile, and then I think I remembered maybe 2 of them. I mostly blacked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. I mean, like you get to a point where it's like you just completely black out, and what matters is what you're doing right then. And even like the noise, like people who are cheering, like especially with Atlanta, it was very loud. But I think the last few miles of that, I didn't actually like recognize any of that. It's like you just concentrate on like you learn to, I guess, zone out everything. And then you just in this, and like that's the only thing that matters. However, in the past, so like when I was running New York City Marathon last fall, I think around mile 20 or so, I kind of recognized and was grateful, like, I was in that race because 2 months before that, I was injured. And at that point, I was like, I can't believe I'm here. I am so grateful. I am here today, and I am kicking ass. And so that was really good. And then I thought about my Beanies at the time, and I'm like, I'm so grateful that I discovered my Beanies because this is the reason I'm here. And I think that's one of the only times that I've had like something, or that I've remembered something, but most of the time I don't think about anything or remember anything.
Yeah. Awesome. So then my last question about the race before I turn it back over to John is, so it was truly an incredible field, incredibly competitive field, and there were a lot of super talented women, and everybody trained super hard and et cetera. But what do you think if there was something in your training or something on that day that gave you that extra edge, that brought you to the podium, to the top of the podium, what do you think made that difference for you? Or maybe it was a lot of things, but like maybe one or two things that gave you that edge.
Yeah, I think number one, I was very, very fit, but I was also at the top of my fitness. I wasn't like over, I didn't tip over, because I think for marathon, it's better to be 90% ready than being 110 ready. And I think some people might have been 110 or even 101% ready. I think I was just right at the top, or maybe even a little bit below. And that also came about because like when we went to Houston, for example, in January, I had felt like we had been having a long build up up until that point, and I was getting to the point where I was getting like, I was felt like I was getting exhausted and I was getting tired, and I was even getting like tired of meeting with my teammates. And I remember even mentioning to my coach, I was like, "Hey, coach, you need to I need can we run on our own and then just meet on workout days?" And our coach was like, "No." And so I think at that point, I was getting really fatigued. But then after Houston, we actually took that week really, really easy. I think we had 3 days or so of complete rest, and that really recharged me so that when we came back to serious training, we didn't have that much time left. And I feel like that definitely made sure that I was at the top of my fitness come the trials, but I was also I didn't tip over. And so, yeah, and then the fact that we had some really long sessions that we shared with my teammates, and they went really, really well. They went better than expected. And so I feel like all of those just came together on that day. And I mean, we train in Flagstaff at 7,000 feet, and we practice a lot on going up and down. And I definitely think that helped. And most of my runs, whenever I had a run on my own, I would go to the hilliest sections of Flagstaff, and I'll try just run uphill and, run downhill, just so I wanted to be as prepared as possible. And I think all of those came together on that day.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to John for more of his questions.
All right. Thank you for sharing all that, Aliphine. It's fascinating to hear all these different, how the pros do it similarly to us, but they have their little spins, and that's how we're all different, and we all have our different approaches that work for us. I used to have my favorite socks, for example. Even holes in these things, I still wear them. But anyhow,
yeah.
From what I understand, you've worked with a performance psychologist for race visualization. What can you share about that? What are tips, or what did you learn from that, and how did it help you per se?
Yeah, so a little history of me, and probably most of you know, I grew up in Kenya. I grew up in a very small village in Kenya. We didn't have a lot growing up. It's not like we were not poor as per the standards of my community, but with the American standard of, having parents or somebody having income, we didn't have that in my family. And so, we struggled to make ends meet in some ways, but not other ways. And so even just making it to America and running in college and graduating with a college degree, I had accomplished a lot, and so after that, post-collegiately, I ran really well as a pro athlete. I had some incredible times. I had 9 national titles at that point. And I think a part of me felt like I had done a lot. And it felt like if my career were to end today, I would have accomplished a lot, which is true. But I just felt like that fire that I had in the beginning when I was younger was not there anymore. And so when I spoke to the psychologist, she was able to reach that part of me that had forgotten, how hard, life was when I was growing up, or that had forgotten just how much of a privilege I had, being where I am today, and that I'm very talented and I work really, really hard. I just needed to get my mind, to that right place, to where I needed my mind and body and spirit to be at the same place, at the same time, so that I could perform. And she really helped me reach that. We talked about, me growing up, and just talking about that kind of snapped me out of, the laziness, so to speak, that I was going through, or the fact that I was feeling like I had accomplished a lot. And I realized that I had a lot more, and I had an opportunity to make this team, and I was going to utilize it. And so she definitely helped me reach that part of me that was hungry. And I became super hungry after I had a few sessions with her.
Okay. And then as far as on that same thought, what can you give to us? Like, what are some good takeaways that maybe like that you can share with us, like on that thought, like that we can think about, whether it's racing or training days from her?
I think that all of us, as athletes, we each have weaknesses. It's important to recognize what your weaknesses are and acknowledge that they're weaknesses and see if you can find help. Like for me, I recognize that like I would be in a race and then at the end of the race, I would just check out completely. It's like I didn't care. It felt like I didn't care anymore. It doesn't matter how strong I was. As soon as I was like closer to the finish line, I felt like I would run out of energy and people would pass me. And like that's how I lost the race. Like I would do really, really well until I got closer to the end of the race, and then I would basically check out and I would like black out and I won't remember anything. It's like I'm existing. And so like we practice, mindfulness and staying in the present until the end, and remembering, like the prize. It's the end of the race. It's not about how hard you run from the beginning to like towards the end till almost the end of the race. It's what you bring when you cross that finish line is what matters. And so we worked on that a lot. And so I think that as athletes, whether you're pro or amateur, like recognizing that if you have a problem, recognizing that problem and accepting and finding a solution to that problem. If it means going to a psychologist, that's also okay. And I think it's strength to seek help. It's not a weakness. And for me, I recognized that, and I was like, I don't want to come out of these trials having what ifs I had done this. Like I wanted to make sure that I put everything on the table that was bothering me. And I went into these trials as prepared as I can be, because this was my areas that I needed to perform. And I'm really glad that I went after those solutions, because I really think that it did help. I'm not saying that it's 100% like it's the reason why I won, but it definitely contributed to that.
Okay. Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Speaking of like finishing strong, like oftentimes I think about food not maybe near the end of a race, and I'm focused on the race, but do you have any like treats you give yourself? Let's say, yes, that race is over. So do you have any favorites? Training days or race day itself, or that day you're probably focused on the win. But what are your any food favorites? Or do you think about it?
Well, every time I finish a race, except for Tishan, actually, so I have a really sweet tooth, like a very, very sweet tooth. As a matter of fact, I had 3 donuts today, and I'm not even guilty. I'm very happy with it, and I could use more. So I have a very sweet tooth, and every time after a race, I go and have Chinese food. I will always have an orange chicken and the lo mein noodles. That's my go-to thing. And some days I'll be like, okay, I'm going to eat some veggies and I'll add some carrots to it. But I always go to a Chinese restaurant after a race, whether big or small. And then I kind of save it for that. So that would be my go-to food. Except at these trials, I was so busy and I didn't know. It was just that my world was being controlled, I guess. Like I didn't really have control because I had A, B, C, D to do. Usually I finish a race and I'm on my own. After like 30 minutes, I can go do my own thing. This was kind of a little different. But yeah, okay. Chinese food is what I go to.
Chinese food and donuts.
Well, and donuts. I don't always eat donuts, but I like donuts now. I think it's going to be, I might just stack some in my fridge. I probably won't be able, like if I had 10 of them, I might eat 5 before tomorrow. Okay. So I might just have to buy one at a time.
Perfect. All right. So let me go ahead and read one of your quotes today from your Twitter. It says, "Even for me, as a professional athlete, I struggle getting out the door. So the hardest part of running is dressing up and getting out. If you can manage to do that, all is good." So any thoughts you can share with all of us, because we all have that problem?
Yeah, I mean, every time I feel like I don't want to go run, I feel like I'm tired, say it's a day after a long run or a big workout, if I can just walk enough to get dressed and put on my running clothes and my shoes, and even just get like 2 steps ahead, I will always finish my run. It's just those days that I'm not able to get dressed that I'm not probably going to run. And as you can see, I already have my running clothes, so chances are I'm actually going to run after this, because like I said, it's the hardest part is just getting those clothes on. And I think I've kind of like these days, sometimes I'll be like, I'm just going to get up and put on running clothes. So then I have to run. I don't have a choice, because I'm like, it's a lot of work to change into like normal clothes. Just go run. Or another thing that you might think is weird, but I will never wake up and take a shower. I'm like, I'm gonna save my shower for after my run. And so
Same.
because I haven't showered, I'm like, I have to go run so I can shower. You know?
Love that. All right, follow up to that. I don't know if I read or heard once that you do, although the race day, you do shower in the morning?
Oh yeah, it's kind of strange that people don't shower, but for me, I think that would be my superstition. It's like when I take a shower, I feel alive. I feel so, I don't know, my body just feels ready to go. And so I always take a shower before my races. I don't know why, but I always take a shower.
All right. All right, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and talk about the NAZ Elite, the Northern Arizona Elite team, formed and coached by Ben Rosario, later supported by Hoka Ona One. Tell us a little bit about Ben's team. What's the philosophy? What's the feeling?
It's very simple. We train, we train hard, we race fearlessly, and we share the journey.
Okay.
As simple as that. We go to practice, we do what we need to be doing. Ben gives us the workout, he gives us the paces, we just go do exactly that. After that, we go home, we share with our, with our fans, how our workouts were, if you feel like, but we believe in sharing the journey because we know that we can inspire a lot of people by sharing what we are doing. And I have, in the past when I've gotten injured, I feel the need to talk to people who are going through injury at the same time because I feel like I can relate to them. Okay. And I think the same thing goes for, like anyone else who is running. It's like, if I can share what I felt like in my workout, somebody else who felt the same way in their workout, where they're pro or amateurs, will be like, oh, this is good. Like, okay, so and so is feeling this way. So it's not just me who feels this way. Like I follow people like Molly Huddle, and I'm like, oh, she said this today. Well, I felt that way too. It's okay, so that's not a bad thing. I'm on the right track. And so I think that sharing the journey inspires a lot of people. We love each other as a group. We are grown-ups, except for the young athletes that are not joining the group. But like for Stephanie, Kellen, and I, and the marathon is really on the guy's side. We are older, like when we're training for this marathon, we talk about things that, like real life things. We talk about families. We talk about challenges, of, say, for example, Stephanie having 2 boys and going to practice. We talk about that because again, we are older. And so I think, like, especially during this marathon build-up, we developed a really close friendship, kind of like sisterhood. And I really enjoy that because it's like you share this, road with these women every day. You share the load, you share the pain of it. And then you get to share, like normal everyday life stuff with. It's incredible. And so I think that Ben has put together a really, really good team. Ben doesn't just recruit anyone that runs fast. He recruits people who know that will fit into our team culture. And I feel like, at least for the 3 of us and even the younger athletes, like we all get along pretty well. We all understand, like we are here, to work. And if I did something, if I felt really good and took off at practice because I felt good that day, I don't think Kellen or Stephanie is going to be mad at me for doing that because, again, we are adults and we understand that we are here to work and to help each other. We don't always I don't always take off or Kellen doesn't take off. But in one of those days, when you feel really good and you want to go after it, most of the time we'll be like, okay, ladies, I'm going to take off, like we respect each other and we just, we are very professional, I feel like, but at the same time, we are very personable.
Perfect. All right, let's from a coaching perspective, let's talk about a few, his philosophy a little bit. There's a bunch of questions, so answer these as quickly as you want or go into depth, but how many miles do you do a week during your ramp up here? And how long is your training, is your marathon focus cycle? Is it 11 weeks, 12 weeks, 10, what, kind of thing?
So usually Ben gives us about 12 weeks, but really like the trials, we have 12 weeks, but the last 8 weeks are the core, weeks of the marathon. And our mileage ranges from, 110 to 120, I think, depending on how you do it. Like with me, sometimes I do my strides in the morning for like 3 days a week. That could get my mileage up by 3 miles. And so I think I might have gone up to like 125 miles this last marathon cycle.
Okay. Next question. What are your longest long runs like?
Our longest long run that we always absolutely have to do is a 26-miler. It used to be a depletion run. You wouldn't take any calories, but then these days, Ben changes it up a little bit. We will have like this last session, or this last build-up, we had 18 miles of about 6 6:50 pace, and then we ran 6 miles at marathon effort, and then the last 2 miles were cool down.
Okay. And speaking, you mentioned the word effort. We're doing the same. We're doing no high intensity work these days. Are you guys, or is it lower intensity kind of things?
Yeah, well, right now, yes.
Obviously,
and I think we are all doing different things. Like for me, I talked to Ben and I said, I don't really feel like I want to do a lot of intensity right now. Whereas somebody like Stephanie, who is preparing to probably run a track race next year, I think she's doing more intense work. I think like the good thing about our coach is that he knows how to like individualize each athlete. It's like, okay, he will give you, this is how the workout looks like, but he's also like open to changing things or switching things around a little bit. And so for me, I'm doing mostly just aerobic work, and I think some of my teammates are doing more intense stuff.
Okay, and then so your downtime work, like for example, I know we did one the other day. You did a 1 on, 1 off. It's just fun.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's fun. I mean, I don't like running for 1 minute, but I'd rather run for 1 minute than running for 5 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
then it's like you don't have to worry about how fast. It's not like he doesn't give us like a limit of run 5:15s for 1 minute. It's like I've been running my 1 minute at 5:40, and I run my tempos at 5:40. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just start asking some questions as they come along here too. And the first question is similar to what we've already heard, but how has your training changed with the delay in the Olympics? I mean, right now, basically, do you have any fall? I mean, none of us really know, but do you have anything on the horizon, possibly?
Yeah, we've talked about, possibly a fall marathon if it actually happens. But right now we are just very flexible. I think our group actually has decided that over the summer we will create our own races. We will probably go after like final search records in different places in Flagstaff. And so I think we'll have some exciting stuff to do in the summer. But personally, I'm just like doing low intensity work and doing about 70 to 80 miles a week.
Okay, perfect.
Whereas if we had the Olympics, I think I would probably be at 90 or 100 right now and ramping up training and doing high intensity workouts.
Perfect. That was from Lizzy Griffin, one of our head coaches for the San Francisco Roadrunners. Just kind of curious what the downtime is like. So what do you like? We'll go back to food for a second. I mean, race day, leading up to races, we always curious, what do people eat, the pros eat leading up to the major marathons, and then maybe even the night before and then race morning?
Yeah, so I'm somebody who always, I grew up in Kenya. Carbohydrates was our main source of fuel. And so I eat a lot of rice. I eat a lot of corn. And so I think I kind of do the carb loading thing, but it's basically almost my normal food anyway, every day of the week. And so I'll eat a heavy carbohydrate meal the night before the race and some, like protein. And then the morning of the race, I eat mostly just, like a bagel or, a few pieces of toast. Like this last race, I had 4 pieces of toast and a cup of coffee. That's basically what I do. Yeah. And then during the race, I fuel with Gatorade for my electrolytes and a gel. And I use Cliff Bar gels for the gels. Yeah.
Good. And do you have, is there caffeine in those gels, or do you use that? Or?
Oh, yeah. I do double shots of espresso. And I know it sounds crazy, but I took 8 during the marathon.
Okay. Perfect.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Lizzy, I'm going to turn it back to you. Do you have any follow-up questions from an eating standpoint that you might have for Aliphine? Or any other follow-ups to those?
Yeah. I had a question about so during the race, you said you took 8 gels on the trials course, and all of them were caffeinated.
Yes, double shots of espresso. And I know I finished the race and I was like, I feel awful. I don't even want any food. Probably because of the, caffeine, all that caffeine in my body. But the reason I do that is I think this was my 6th marathon, and my first 3 marathons I bombed so bad because I did what people told me was ideal. I took the amount of calories that they told me I needed to do, and I just got to a point where I was like, I'm not going to listen to what bodies work differently, and I'm probably doing it all wrong, but it's working for me. And so I will take, and like New York City Marathon 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I got to 40K and I just bombed so badly, and I ended up like slowing down significantly. And so what I did last year for the New York City Marathon is at mile 36 or at kilometer 30, I had 2 gels, and so I took one right away when we got to 30K, and then I carried the other one, and I just like munched on it whenever I felt like I needed a boost. And that was also a way for me to distract myself for when I felt distressed during the race. I would take, my gel. And then I had another one, two of them at 36, and I did the same thing. And I think I threw my last gel away at about probably like 600 or 800 meters to go. And I did the same thing for the trials. Like, I wanted to make sure that I got to the finish line with as much energy as possible. And from the lessons that I had learned from the races that I bonged, I was like, I'm not going to leave anything to chance. I'd rather have too much, carrying too much with me than not having it, because it's the worst feeling, bonging.
And then what do you do for electrolytes, hydration? Do you do just water? Or do you do some electrolytes? What does that look like?
I do some Gatorade. Yeah, I dilute it a lot more because, again, I don't want it to taste too much. But yeah, and I think some people can just do, the electrolyte without the gels, or they can do gels and water. But for me, I just believe that I need both. But I do my gels after 15K, though. Like, I do just electrolytes on the first two, like a 5K and 10K, I just do the electrolytes. And then from 50K to, like 40K or whatever the last food station is, I just do my gels and both gels and the electrolytes.
Okay. And one last food-related question that we got from the YouTube channel is, do you have a favorite flavor of donut?
Oh, gosh. I don't think so. I think just vanilla. Any donut is good for me, honestly. Any donut is good for me. I don't discriminate against donuts. I am free for all.
Amen. I second that.
All right. Hey, Lizzy, any other questions on those thoughts?
I think that's all my nutrition questions.
Okay. So as Aliphine mentioned, to give a little backdrop, she was born in Kenya. She was a world-class athlete competing at the World Junior Cross Country Championships in high school. Then you were recruited by Wichita. Is it Wichita State?
I was recruited by Iowa State first, and then I went to Iowa State for a year and a half and transferred to Wichita State. Okay.
And there you studied public health science. I know that's near and dear to your heart. Tell us a little bit about that. And did you do that, or were you professional running straight out of college? How did that go?
Yeah, so when I came here from Kenya, like I said, I grew up in a very small village. We didn't have access to healthcare. And so I wanted to do something in the healthcare field. And I always wanted to be a nurse. And so when I went to Iowa State, of course, they didn't have nursing program there. So that was the main reason I transferred to Wichita State. And I got there and I did all my pre-nursing classes. And then, you have to apply to nursing school. And at that point, I was getting really good with my running career. And I realized that I couldn't really I couldn't advance in my running career and go to nursing school at the same time. So then at that point, I stepped back from the nursing and I just did public health, and I graduated with that. And I never pursued it after college because I went straight to running. However, it's a goal of mine that when this career of running is when it ends, I'm definitely going to go back and get my nursing degree. I can't wait because I really love helping people. And I feel like that's where my true calling is. Honestly, I feel like I'm called to be a nurse. And so I'm excited about that career too.
Wonderful. We're going to take another question from the audience here. The question's from Megan Morris, and she says, how is your family in Kenya doing during this COVID pandemic?
Well, so far, people in my village are doing well. I talked to my mom last week, and I was like, oh, Mom, I miss you. I wish I could come home. I was hoping to come home this April. She's like, don't. Just make sure you're safe, you're healthy, and just stay where you are, So they're staying safe, they're staying healthy. They're, staying in their homes. They're not wandering around to go meet the neighbors. So they're doing good. No one in my village has contracted the virus yet. Okay. So thank God for that. And I hope that it stays that way because honestly, we don't have the resources to contain it if it got that far. So I'm really, really hoping that it just stays that way.
Amen. Same. Well, speaking of that, so Kenya, are you friends with Eliud Kipchoge, or do you know him? Did you meet him earlier on in your career, or what's your friend? Is there a friendship?
I would say Eliud and I are friends, but I do know Eliud. I actually, you mentioned that I represented Kenya in 2005 World Cross Country. Eliud was in that team too, and so I got to know him a little bit, and I remember seeing him or watching him that race battle out with Bekele. That was really cool. I believe that Bekele ended up out kicking Eliud. And then 2 years ago in 2017, I ran into Eliud in New York City Marathon, and I went to say hi to him, and I asked him if he remembered me, and he said he did. And then I posted something, and he commented on this, so I thought that was really, really cool. So I do know Eliud. I wouldn't say that I'm friends with him or anything.
Fair enough. Okay. The next question is not really a question per se, but for those of you who follow her on Strava, when you go there, you'll see the only group that she follows is the RRCA. It's called the Run Pro organization. Now, RRCA is the Roadrunners Club of America. It's near and dear to our heart for San Francisco Roadrunners. They've been such a good asset for us. I know the Run Pro program, and you can talk more about this, assists really runners who, from that young, promising distance runners, making the transition from collegiate running to pro running. How have they helped you, Aliphine?
So I was actually a guest speaker there last summer. It's too bad that it's not happening this year. Okay. But I never went there when I was like a young and upcoming athlete. I was just there to speak with the young athletes, and I think it was very insightful because you realize that, some of these kids don't know anything about pro running, and I didn't know anything about professional running when I got out of college. I remember on my first race, I was like, okay, so because I was, used to running track and cross-country races, and I was like, okay, so you run a road race, how do you start? Like, what side of the road do you start? How do you take off? And I didn't know anything about, having managers. I mean, I did have a manager, but I just didn't know what it takes. Or like, I thought that I was come out of college and I was going to get this huge contract, from a shoe company, but that was not what happened. And so I think that with our RCA, like, it just educates athletes on all those aspects, and I just gave them, my life experiences or some of the things that I didn't know and what I came to learn, and, just encouraging them. And I think that's a really cool thing because some of the members of that RRCA camp have gone on to, succeed in life and, like in the sport of running. And I think that's a really good mentorship to have at such an early age.
Wonderful. And I saw you at the end in the finish area with Gene Kanak, the executive director for the Roadrunners Clubs of America. I know you must have a friendship there.
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah, I think I became friends with everyone that I met in that camp. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to have people who you had interactions with and you get to, have them cheer for you. That's just pretty awesome.
Okay. The next question is on those same thoughts from Elisa, who's one of our club ambassadors. Her question is, what are some of the greatest challenges you faced as a professional runner?
I think one of the greatest ones is finances. When you come out of college, you just don't realize, especially for me or somebody like myself who was a student athlete, I had a stipend for my rent or my utilities, and you come out of there and all of a sudden running becomes a business. It's like you have to run, you have to make money running. Otherwise, there's no point of running. Like you don't get points for like racing well. If you don't make money, then you don't get to pay your bills. And I think that I struggled with that a lot in the beginning because I came out of college at the top of my game. I never won a NCAA, but I was a runner-up twice, and I thought that was good enough to win me races. And then you come to this pro level, and you are like everyone else. There's so many good pro athletes, and a lot of college kids don't make it, to the top of the game in the professional level just because of that, because all of a sudden the motivation is not just racing. It's like, you have to race and make a living and pay your bills. And I think that was one of the greatest challenges that I had. And I didn't get sponsored like I thought I was going to. And also, I think a lot of athletes come out of college and they go to different groups to train with, and to get used to that training and believe that training that they're giving you there works is something that it takes a while to adjust to and believe in.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to move. Lizzy and I will kind of wrap up some of our questions. We'll move into some of the listener questions. One listener question is, it's from the B2B, which is Boston to Big Sur, hopefully says, what are for your race day shoes? This is a question people always ask me too. Like, how many miles do you put on them before the race? Or is it a fresh pair of shoes?
I am not. My team at Kellen wears fresh out of the box shoes to a race. I do not do that. I think with this one, I had about 12 miles in it.
Okay. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, just to break into it and know that it feels good. Because I don't want to develop blisters during a race. Even though Hoka shoes are in general, Hoka shoes you don't even need to break into. In general, you can just put on and go for a 10, 20-mile run and you're fine. But I believe that I need to break into them anyway.
Okay, and Lizzy, do you have any? Can I bring you in? Do you have any questions you want to follow up before we turn it more over to the questions themselves?
Yeah, I do have a few questions. First, are you allowed to talk about the Hoka shoes that you wore?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Are they still
Yeah.
secret shoes?
No, they're not secret anymore.
What are they? Can you describe them a little bit?
Yeah, so I will have to say this first. I am not an intuitive person when it comes to shoes. As long as the shoe doesn't bother me, like it doesn't give me a blister, it doesn't feel heavy, I'm totally cool with it. And so up until that point, I was wearing, the normal flats that people had worn for 20 years, and I remember after Chicago Marathon last year, people were talking about the shoe technology, and it all of a sudden cut into my head, and I was like, oh my God, I guess I'm losing a lot of races because of this. And then Hoka comes up with this new shoe, and I wear them, and I honestly don't know any different. It just feels like my normal flats, but it felt good. I didn't have any problems with them. The Rocket X are excellent. They're light. You don't feel. So I tried the carbon rockets that came before that, and I ran in them for the first time in Houston. Like the first time that I ever ran with a shoe that had a technology was Houston Half Marathon this year. And that really hurt my calves. And I was like, I don't think I can run the marathon with this one. If Houston Half Marathon was a marathon, I didn't think I would have finished that. But then with the Rocket X, I didn't feel anything. It didn't pull on my my calves or anything. I just felt comfortable in them. And so I'm like, hey, this is my shoe of choice as far as I'm concerned right now.
Awesome. And then another question I have is, so in other interviews that you've done, you have mentioned that you would one day like to be a female version of Meb, which is an awesome thing to aspire for because he is badass, but so are you. But I was going to ask, what are some qualities in him or things that he sort of represents that you find most admirable and that you would like to reflect?
Maybe it's very inspiring. He uses running to inspire a lot of people. And I feel like when Mabe talks to you about anything, it doesn't have to be running related. You just get so fired up. I read his book 26 Marathons. And yes, it is about running, but it also touches, it's almost like it relates to every aspect of anyone's life. And I felt so good within that reason. And I felt so inspired. And I mean, I've seen Mabe so many times, and him and I have some awesome conversations, and we don't even talk about running anymore. We just talk about everyday, things. And I just love Mabe. He's very outspoken. He's an immigrant like I am. And, like the lessons that he's learned from being an immigrant or being like visiting back home in Eritrea and coming back and learning how much of a privilege we have it here. He tries to, like instill people that kind of wisdom. And I love it. And I mean, he is a Boston Marathon champion, New York City Marathon champion. He's a silver medalist at the Olympics. It's like, I want to accomplish that, but I also want to inspire people in the process. I want to use running to inspire people. And Mabe has done exactly that. And I'm like, I just want to be like Mabe,
Mm-hmm. And in your career, like maybe looking back, maybe 20 years from now, what sort of impact or impression would you want to make on younger athletes, especially younger female athletes?
I will hope that my story, helps someone who is going through a hard time be resilient. I hope that my story, even like coming back from injuries, or believing that, there's not much training out there. It's just you believing in the training that you have, that it will take you to where you need to be. I hope that, 20 years from now, there will be athletes who listen to me talk and they got super inspired because they were going through a hard time or because they came out of college and they thought they were going to be stars and it didn't happen that way because they waited for 5 years before anyone could sponsor them, because that's almost about the time that it took me to get a sponsor. And they struggle. I struggled. I had to get a job, and I had, to like miss seeing my family for a very long time to pursue this goal of wanting to be an Olympian. And that's like beyond that, my village that I grew up in, there's a lot of girls that just don't know that there are a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of kids, boys and girls, that don't know that they can use running to inspire them to get better in other aspects of their lives. There's a lot of girls that they don't know that they can grow up and be independent and have their own, things, follow their own dreams and goals, and I want to go back and inspire them and show them that you can do it. I have done it, and they can do it too. And so that's something that it's very powerful. When I was growing up, my community again is very indigenous. Education and running is something that is pretty new. And Tekla Lurube, one of my idols, was one of the few females from my village that defied all those norms and went on to become an amazing professional athlete, won New York City Marathon twice. She was the first African woman to win New York City Marathon. She was a world record holder a couple of times, and like in the marathon, in the 20K and 30K and the 25K. And, back then people were mocking her, especially when she was getting started. People were like, you need to stop running. You need to get married and have kids and have a husband to take care of you. But she didn't listen to that. She continued to run. And eventually, she became very independent. She came back to the village. She invested her money. She had a gas station. She had hotels. And all of a sudden people were like, oh, wow, we didn't know a woman could do that. And so to have somebody like that inspire me, I would like to be that inspiration to young girls, and let them know that they can pursue an education, they can go to college, and they can also go to the Olympics. And that was one of the biggest motivation for me to make this Olympic team. It was like, I want to go back to my village, and I want to let them know that their dreams are valid. They can be whoever they want to be. They just have to work hard. They can't sit on their butts and think that would just happen to them. No, life doesn't happen to you. You have to work hard for it.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, to jump in, literally, I have his book here, Mev's book, 26 Marathons. It was our last wonderful read. You said you liked that one, Aliphine?
I love that book. When I was going to Holland to run my marathon last year, I read 9 chapters of that book on my way there, and I was so inspired. And I'm like, hey, maybe that's why I ended up running a PR by over 6 minutes. I don't know. And Mev is just an amazing person, and that book is so easy to read. I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. We actually, the San Francisco Roadrunners, we have a book club, and that was our second to last book club read was that book. Also, this book, Mev for Mortals, an amazing book. If you haven't read it, basically after he won the Boston Marathon, he gave every trick away. We've used that actually a lot for our athletes. So, all right, a couple questions. I mean, one thought is. Aliphine, you inspire us so much, and I'm just going to say this, even though you're not doing it right now, but your smile is so wonderful. So I want you to cross the finish line. Somebody in here, David Ball, said amazingly cheerful, but also real person, amazing smile, all these kind of things. So thank you for what you do for us, not just the women, but all the men as well, and all the whole entire running community. We're going to kind of rocket through a few questions here. The first one's from Jack. He's one of our club members. He said, do you lift weights?
I do, actually. We have 2 weight sessions a week, on Monday and on Thursday. So we have our performance chiropractors that give us the weights, and it's mostly body weight. And so we go to the weight room as a team every Monday and every Thursday.
Okay, great. And then the next one is from Victor Hazeman. He's one of our club ambassadors. What drew you to Nazalete? Your racing team?
The money.
That's you need that.
No, just kidding. Well, I mean that too. But no, NAZ Elite, I went to visit and I looked at the training, that Ben gave, and I felt like that was something that I was missing. In my previous training, I needed a long runs. I needed a long workout. I needed to be on my feet longer, and to have 3 women training towards the same goal, which is the Olympic trials. I knew that we were going to train together every day in those last 3 months, and that's exactly what happened. And so I really wanted that. And my partner lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Flagstaff is only 5.5 hours away from there. So I was like, okay, I could escape to Flagstaff, when I don't want to see you, and go train there and then come back, and we are all like new again now. But yeah, so Flagstaff is a beautiful place to be. It has a lot of roads to run from, and they're well maintained. People are very connected to their communities. They're very active community, and I just enjoyed that, and it reminded me of Kenya. And okay. And Ben is a really amazing coach. And in 2017, actually, Stephanie and Kellen both ran New York City Marathon, and they kicked my butt. So I joined the team after that.
Perfect. All right, the next question, it's actually a shout out to my younger brother, He said, big fan of yours. So it's what a nice interview with you. I bring up Chris because we actually traveled to Kenya to run a marathon. We ran the one in the SFRRRC marathon in Lewa. And it was a most wonderful experience. We cannot wait to get back.
Awesome. I've never ran that before, but maybe someday, I would love to go to Kenya and run a race in Kenya. I mean, it's incredible. Kenya is where all the athletes are from. And I'm like, I would love to go run a marathon there. It would probably be hot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were the last two people to cross the finish line.
Oh, I believe you.
We're fine with that.
No, pun intended, but I believe you.
We're totally fine with that. The next question is from Carlos Briseño. He says, hi, Aliphine. What's your favorite and your least favorite workout?
My favorite workout will have to be a long tempo. I actually really like 8-mile tempo or steady state. I enjoyed what I was doing yesterday. I feel like 8 is a sweet spot where like you can run, almost a marathon effort and still feel in total control. My least favorite, I do not like 400s. I do not like 300s, especially 300s. I think 300s and 400s, I don't like it. It's not my thing.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. All right. Lizzy, do you have any questions that you want to bring out from any of your people?
One question that has been bothering me for a long time should I say NAZ Elite or NAZ Elite? Like, do you spell
I think we say both. NAZ Elite, I think, is the correct way of saying it, but NAS is just because we read NAS. NAZ, yeah, I think it's the right word, but not an Arizona Elite, really, if you want to get fancy.
Okay, cool. And then another question that I have is, are you a big person into like mobility, stretching, like that kind of stuff, pre-run, post-run, or what does that look like for you?
I wish I was like that. I think if I was, I would be such a better athlete. My partner team is always bugging me about stretching, and I'm like, just get off my business, okay? I am an Olympian already, so why do you want me to stretch? But I am not very big at stretching. Here's the catch. I stretch and I do a lot of strength when I have a problem. If I injured my hamstring, I would stretch that hamstring a lot. And so I'm not very good at that. I could do better. So you guys don't follow what I'm doing, because I wait until I'm totally broken and then I try to repair it, whereas I could prevent, but I'm not very good at that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One more question from the channel from Paolo. Do you like to listen to stuff when you're running these days? And do you have a favorite hype song?
No, things don't stick in my ears. I mean, I'm trying to keep this one in, but it doesn't always stick. No, I've never listened to music when I run. I think I'm very comfortable with myself and being in my head and my surrounding when I'm running and my pace, that I just don't listen to anything. And so I wouldn't even say that anything will pump me up, but I love country music. Every time I play country music, I feel so good. There's just something about it that makes me feel really, really good.
Nice.
And classical music too. And bluegrass.
Ooh.
Beautiful. All right. The next question we have is from Claire Nealon. And she said, the question is have you ever experienced a period of self-doubt? And then how did you deal with that?
All the time. I mean, I think I go back to how I got there. The process is very important. Like, for example, when you're coming back from an injury, or if you're doing training and you're just not meeting the time goals that you need to be meeting, it's easy to doubt yourself, to doubt if you can still do this or not. But I think I like to speak my mind out a lot, and I'm very open with my coach. I talk to my coach, and usually he is the one who reminds me that you're good, you can make this team, getting ready for the trials. There were times where I would doubt, and I'll just go to talk to my coach, and he's like, do you remember that workout that you did? That was an amazing workout. No, you're ready. You're totally ready. And so I don't seek validation from people, but the people that are closer to me, are people that I share what I'm feeling with, and usually they're able to put things into perspective, and that helps a lot.
Okay, wonderful. And Erica Cash is one of our board members. She says, will you have more hats available on Etsy? Maybe when, or what's your...
Yes, I absolutely will have more hats. I have about 76 orders right now that I have left. which I should be able to finish in the next 3 weeks. And as soon as I'm done with that, I will build my inventory. And I'm hoping, but sometime mid-June or towards the end of June, I hope to have the Etsy shop reopened again, and I'm hoping to sell out again a lot. And so I will have more hats. I will continue to make hats, honestly, for the rest of this year. So, like if you go to my shop on Etsy and it doesn't have anything, be sure that it will be restocked again. The question, though, is that how often is it going to be sold out? It's been sold out twice now. So I can't really promise that if you go back there, you'll find hats, but I'll continue to make. And you can always, message me, and I am good at about if somebody messaged me, I will always, be like, hey, I'm going to, make this hat for you. And I will always reopen one hat and then they can order. So I'm good at that,
Okay.
I've had a couple of people, one of them was like, hey, my friend is having a baby in May. Is there a way you're going to make a hat? And I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to make one right now. I'm going to skip everybody else, because people have different situations and people need resilience at different times. And if I feel like you really, really need resilience, I will definitely do one. I'll stay up at night if I have to.
Thank you. Beautiful. All right. Last few questions. This one is from George Remmett. He's the new president of RRCA. His question is, do you ever plan to come to San Francisco once this virus is over? And he lives here. So
I came to San Francisco for a vacation a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh my God, how do you guys live? I mean, one, it's very, very hilly, but two, there's so many buildings. I grew up in a village, and so I'm kind of gravitated towards a small town. But I would love to run some races in San Francisco. What is that race that they say you run through a really long hill? It's a 15K.
Is it the 12K, the Beta Breakers?
I think Beta Breakers. I would love to run that. I would love to run that someday. I hear it's very, very hard, so I will have to be prepared. But yeah, I would love to run. And my partner's sister actually lives in the Bay Area. And so I would love to run that and go see them.
Wonderful.
Definitely.
It's a wonderful race. All the world champions run that at some point. We had Joan Benoit Samuelson with us a few weeks ago, and she said she ran that. I think she might have won that. And then Frank Shorter ran that too. So
yeah.
We love that. And of course, you'll have to come visit the Impalas and the San Francisco Roadrunners. So we'll have two more questions, then we'll say goodbye. Thanks for going so long with us, Aliphine. We got to get you out the door. Last question, perhaps. This one's from Victoria Macias. She says, Aliphine, do you plan to live in Kenya ever again, or do you prefer to build your future and with your future nursing career here in the United States?
My partner and I have talked about. Sorry, I'm making sure that my computer doesn't run out of battery.
Okay.
But my partner and I have actually talked about having a second home in Kenya because.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to be able to go back and inspire people in my community and have my own place. So yeah, I will go there, maybe live there, part of the time. But I really do see myself though, I feel like I could do a greater good here in terms of, working here most of my life and, going to Kenya occasionally. And also my partner grew up here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And so it's our life is probably most of 99% of our life is going to be here. And then, the 1% will be spent in Kenya.
Okay, beautiful. Before we leave, maybe a last question from me is, from all these years of running that you've had, the miles and things like that, what are just any takeaways, even the years of racing, your collegiate records and your U.S. records and things like that you can give to our people at any stage of whether they're fast or slow? Just any thoughts that you can give to us, with regards to running itself?
Consistency is very important. It takes a long time for you to perform well in a race. It might even take up to 5 years. But I think putting your head down and continuing to do the work, even when you don't see it producing positive results, is important, because the easy days come very, very easy, but that's after putting in a lot of work. And so with running, you just have to continue to put in the work and believe that eventually it's going to pay off. And it usually does pay off.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that. We'd love the consistency. Lizzy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Do you have any parting thoughts or questions? Otherwise, we can sign off together here with. Oh, before we do, actually, I'll give you a second to think about that. One of her sponsors, Hoka One One, is giving a free pair of shoes away. Jared, he says, "Show me the money." So we did this random. So whoever's on there, we did a random number generator probably right before this. I thought the number was 31. Jared can tell me differently. So the 31st number or comment or question in the comment section is the winner. Jared, do you have a winner for us on there? Have you already announced that? I'll see what he has here. He's saying yes, he has, but I don't know if there's a name on there. Anyway, let them figure that out, but make sure we're on while Jared figures that one out. So anyway, it's a free pair of shoes. It's been a pleasure. Let's see what they're saying here. They have that Pedro is the winner. So
awesome. That's awesome. The Hoka shoes are pretty awesome. Like, you guys should try it out. I think you'll love it.
Yay.
Yeah. So my last thoughts, and I'll kind of turn it over to you for the closing word, Aliphine. But let's just be kind to each other right now. Let's get through this. We will together. Let's still be vigilant and try to be, good models for others out there. I know people get mad at us. I personally wear a bandana when I'm outside running just to do that and just to protect others and things. So we can't wait to see you all. Aliphine, we hope to see you in San Francisco sometime. And of course, our very best from the San Francisco runners to you, to your partner, and of course to all of your team at the NAS Elite.
Thank you very much.
And special thank you to your partner, who I know is an essential worker. So That is super awesome. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your beautiful attitude and your spirit and your smile, and you're just so wonderful. So thank you so much for inspiring us.
Thank you, you guys. I mean, it's been a pleasure, being able to inspire you. If I can inspire one person in a day, I would have done my job and I would have done it right. And so thanks for, wanting me to speak with your people and go try out Hoka shoes.
Oh, for sure. Before we leave, let's stay
positive and, continue to do our best, to mitigate the spread of this virus, and hopefully our world comes back, to normal soon. But in the meantime, let's continue to run, because running can save lives. I mean, even for me, I need running to survive. I need running to get through my days, because the stress of not knowing what the future holds can be, lessened or mitigated by running. And I'm glad that I always will have running, for the rest of my life. I'm really grateful for that. And yeah.
Okay, a final comment coming through. Karen Lee says Jambo to everybody. Can you tell everyone what Jambo means? It basically means...
Jambo in Swahili is basically hi.
Hello to everybody.
Other people... hi. Yeah, it's just an official way of saying hi, hello, yeah.
Good. And other ones, we love you, Aliphine. Thank you, Aliphine. We love you, Aliphine. These are some of the comments, because you may never hear these otherwise. But thanks from all the comments. We say goodnight to everybody. We wish you well. Get out for a run. Let's do it safely. Let's be kind and love each other. Thank you, Aliphine. Thank you, Lizzy.
Thank you.
Thank you, you guys, and have a good night.
Bye, everybody.